for Distance Learning R&D Committee. Professor Paulson has worked in University of Alberta in Portugal and has been appointed as adjunct professor at Alberta University, Canada. He has a doctorate in education from Pennsylvania State University. He is in the editorial board of many of the research journals. His specialization is online education, e-learning, and cooperative freedom. He has written and published numerous books, articles, and reports about learning management system. He has delivered many keynote addresses in different conferences. He has also presented more than 50 papers at different platforms. He is accomplished academician and a renowned educationist. So we are lucky to have Professor Paulson with us. So not coming in between you and the learner speaker, I request you, sir, to throw light on the today's theme, that is technologies that transform the distance education. Sir, please.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. I'm just trying to share my presentation, so just a moment. Okay, I think you can see my presentation now. Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and I must say that I'm honored to be invited to share some of my thoughts with you. At the moment, I am in the small village of Kragerø in Norway. I live in a small fisherman house on the island you see in the middle of the picture here, and it's out towards the ocean, and you can almost see all the way to Sweden and Denmark there. My presentation today is called 13 Technologies That Transformed Education. It is based on a lot of anecdotes I have written during the last 3 years. I have actually written 400 of those anecdotes, and it's a chronicle of all my work-related experiences since I started to work with online education in the 1980s. And what I'm going to share with you today is basically some of my first experiences with these early technologies that I felt that transformed education. You can read the first versions of these anecdotes at the website, which is at the bottom of the screen here. And you can also see some review copies of the first 2 books that I'm writing about this. I'm going to share some experiences from the 1980s, 1990s, the 2000s, and the 2010s about technology that was important and how I experienced using these in online and distance education. This is just an abstract, and I will come back to the issues later on. But thinking back, it is interesting to see that technology has changed the way we deal with distance education a lot during the last 40 years. However, the pedagogy has not changed that much. So it is kind of interesting to see that technology has been very much central to what I have experienced throughout the decades. At the top here, you see the 4 or 5 books I'm planning to publish during next years about these experiences. And as it was said during the introduction of myself, I have a lot of experiences, especially from the NKI distance education in Norway, where I was working as a director of development for many years. And I've also most of my experiences from the US, Canada, and Europe. But I have been many other places and given presentations. And I do think that I know quite a lot about what's going on, since I also have been Secretary General of the International Council for Open and Distance Education, which is member institutions for many of the large open universities around the world. So I have chosen some artwork to illustrate the different decades in my history. And it's two quite famous Norwegian artists that have been chosen. It is Edvard Munch, who has illustrated the sun at the top left corner here. It's actually the dawn I see every morning from my house. It's a beautiful view. And for the 2010s, I've also chosen artwork from Edvard Munch. And if you see some tiny houses in the middle of the pictures beside the cliff, that is one of the houses I'm in at the moment. In the 1980s, we saw that we had microcomputers, PCs, and software come around. We had bulletin board systems and modems that started to be used for distance education, and the first learning management systems arrived. In the 1990s, we got access to email and internet services at least Western universities. The World Wide Web started to be used, and we got the search engines, all technologies that made a difference for students and tutors around the world. In the 2000s, we got Wi-Fi and laptops that could be used together with Wi-Fi, making it easier to travel around the world and work. We got the first mobile phones, we got smartphones, and in the 2010s, we got blogs and social media, iPads and apps. We also saw the advent of MOOCs and open educational resources. And now we see the artificial intelligence technology changing the educational world. So these are just some of the technologies that I identified in my anecdotes, and I have identified 13 just to make a catchy title of the presentation. 13 technologies that transformed education. So going back to the 1980s, we saw that microcomputers, PCs, and software really started to change how we worked in education. I did my master thesis in 1980, and I did build a CPU for a microcomputer, which you see at the top left part of the picture here. It was actually a microcomputer which was very much similar to the technology that was used in the IBM PCs that arrived some years later. At that, I started to use my first word processor in 1980. And in 1981, I started as a teacher at a vocational school in Norway, a military vocational school. And we, the teachers there, set up a local area network with microcomputers, as you can see in the middle picture. And we used that to develop an arithmetic game for the students so that they can compete in arithmetic skills. I also, in the early 1980s, got a batch of BBC microcomputers that the Open Universities and BBC used to introduce ICT to the audience. And I also later on started to use and learn a lot about the technology, the software like word processors and spreadsheets, and that really changed the way we dealt with education. I was teaching at the first Norwegian private ICT college at the time, and we also did a series of educational TV programs, and I was lucky enough to interview Bill Gates for half an hour educational video on Norwegian TV about his early experiences with PCs. So in many ways, I think that the microcomputers really, really changed the educational world and was the main technology that we had in the 1980s. In 1984, I had bought myself a modem and I had connected it to the telephone line, and I logged on to several bulletin board systems, which were computers that private people set up to exchange software and email communication. And I realized that this technology could revolutionize distance education. Because I was working in a company at the time that dealt with correspondence courses, and I did one correspondence course in my life, and I realized that correspondence courses were too slow. It took 2 weeks from I submitted my assignments to I got a response from my correspondence tutor. And I felt lonely because I did not have contact with any other students as a correspondence students. So I realized that this PC technology, together with communication software and modems, made it possible to develop revolutionary online education systems. So in 1986, we developed the first learning management system at my college. It was based on the drawing, the metaphor I shared with my co-developers. I wanted to build a virtual school so that students and teachers had the feeling of being part of a real school through the keyboard and the screen. And I had two brilliant students that actually developed this system in 1986. And at the left side of the screen, you see the main menu that actually allowed the students to enter conferencing software, email software, bulletin board systems, and a user roster providing information about the other students. So during the development of this system in Norway in 1986, we did some research around the world and to see if there were any similar system about, and we learned about the EIES system, the ICE system that was developed in the US, and we learned also about the COSI system that was developed in Canada. and there was a system called Portacom in Sweden. And these systems were, as we found out, pretty much similar to what we were developing in Norway. So we started to use this with our face-to-face students. I posted my presentations during face-to-face teaching on the system and asked to have the students to discuss the lectures in the computer conferences. And I also asked them to submit their assignments through the email system. And the students, they actually liked it pretty much. So the next year, we actually added several modems to this system and allowed the students to connect from home via telephone lines, PCs, and modems. And I could sit in my house and communicate with my students where they actually were in their dorms. So we realized that we could use this for distance education. And in 1987, I taught the first online course for distance students in Norway. And as far as I know, it was the first such course in Europe back in 1987. And ever since, I have been really fascinated by working with online education. In 1990, I started to work as a doctoral student at the American Center for the Study of Distance Education, and also with the people that worked with the American Journal of Distance Education. And as a working there, I established what I think was one of the very first online journals. It was called DIOS, the Distance Education Online Symposium, and it was basically a database of articles that we published two times per month, and it was distributed to email services around the world. And I was editor of that for 2.5 years, and I published about 25 issues. And I got a lot of good contacts around the world through setting up these email services and this online journal for distance education. 1994 was an important year for Norway because we arranged the 1994 Winter Olympics. And that was the first really useful web service that we had in Norway and made people in Norway very much aware of the new technology that was called the World Wide Web. We could actually see the results from the 1994 Winter Olympics in Lillehammer on the web. And that made us realize that this was going to be the future of the internet. So a lot of institutions and a lot of universities started to have the World Wide Web on its focus starting in 1994. And we got the search engines that allowed students and teachers to find incredible much information. My first experience was in 1996, and I was a little bit scared because I could find so much information about myself on this, and I did not have any control of it. So I wrote this kind of poem about my ambivalent thoughts regarding the search engines. If you go to the 2001 I had the first experiences with Wi-Fi, and this is the first um, laptop I had, but that is actually that one actually did 10 years earlier. But in 2000, early 2000, the first laptops came with Wi-Fi access, and it made it so much easier to work away from our desks and also go out traveling, working, accessing the internet from our personal laptops. In 2001, I was attending the ICD World Conference in Düsseldorf, Germany, and that was the first international conference I actually was at where they had an internet cafe where we as a participant can access the internet from the conference. In 2001, we also started to see the mobile phones, and we actually at my institute started to use these mobile phones and digital assistants in a way that we could connect them to internet. And we initiated the first experiments with distance education courses that were using that kind of technology. So it was old-fashioned mobile phones, but you can see that we actually could show course content on the screens and access the internet through the mobile phones. In 2007, we got the smartphones, which made online learning available in people's pockets, and also actually introduced the touch keyboards, which made it much more easier to actually communicate via the screens of the smartphones. And that's changed a lot of our lives. In 2010, I was in Portugal teaching for the Universidade Aberta, and that was when the social media really started to take off. I taught a course for master students that were only online, and I asked them to experience and use the different social media in their assignments. And you see some of the social media they actually used in 2010 in this screen. I was very much into transparency at that time, and I gave the students an opportunity to share or submit their assignments to me via email or with the other students in the Moodle class conference or in a blog or some sort of social media. And to my great surprise, most of the students actually decided to share their submitted assignments with the whole world, setting up their private blogs. So it was a great learning experience that we actually saw that a lot of people outside the class started to comment on the work we were doing. In 2011, all the employees in my college got an iPad, and we started to distribute the course catalog as an app. And I must say that I have been using my iPad almost every day since I got that in 2011. In 2014, it was a lot of interest in the MOOCs, and in Norway, we had a official report from the government talking about the MOOCs. And the MOOCs and open educational resources provided free online opportunities for millions of people. I must admit that MOOCs has not been a great success in Norway. They are still around, and a number of universities have a few, but it has not been the huge success that we expected it to be. I did ask Chat GTP what 13 technologies has transformed education. And I got these 13 answers, which are pretty much similar to what I've shared with you now. But I just want to reiterate what the chat GTP said. It said personal computers, internet, smartphones, tablets, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, gamification, cloud computing, learning management systems, video conferencing, social media, open educational resources, and blockchain technologies. There are a lot of other technologies that have been important, and many of them are also included in my anecdotes. But I think that I have used my 30 minutes now, and I'm open for questions. If you would like to learn more about my anecdotes and the technologies that I have shared some experiences with there, you find the URL at the bottom here. And if you would like to contact me via LinkedIn, you see my LinkedIn profile here. So I guess I will say thank you for now, and I'm open for questions if you would like to post some.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for such an elaborative session. Now there are some questions from audience side. So my first question is, how have video conferencing tools impacted the effectiveness of online learning?
Video conferencing started to be used in the 2010s, basically, and it was used for business meetings and some teaching, but I did not talk much about this now, because what really happened was that video conferencing like Teams and Zoom and Skype and those kind of systems took off during the pandemic. And it changed the way online education was perceived, because suddenly everyone in Norway had to relate to video conferencing, starting with primary school and all the way up to universities. Both teachers, students, and parents had to relate it. And I was impressed by how well they actually adapted. The problem was that suddenly everyone perceived online education as video conferencing, disregarding all the experiences we had had for many, many years with online education in various formats around the world. So today, I'm a little bit afraid that too many people think about online education as video conferencing, which is just a tiny bit of the opportunities we have.
Thank you, sir. One more question is there, sir. That is, what is the significance of learning management system in distance education and its impact on the teaching and learning experience?
I still think that learning management systems are really important in online education that should be dealt with efficiently and in a larger setting. I'm running a private online school from my island, and we are using the Moodle platform, which is used a lot around the world. And I still think that that is an important tool to organize the courses and the students and all the kinds of activities that we need to deliver and administrate online education, especially when we're talking about large-scale education.
Thank you so much, sir.
So thank you so much, Professor Paulson, for giving your valuable time and for interacting with our participants. Really, the 13 technologies that you shared right from the initial years to the current use of AI has been enlightening. It was really looking back into the history of the ODL learning platforms and how distance education started. It was, a good lesson in history as well, apart from what technologies are being used. So thank you so much for this kind session and also for accepting our invitation today for this international conference. We really thank you for your time and hope to connect in future as well. And so thank you once again for this